The last light was fading. The Xylosian High Council had fought for centuries, for millennia, but now only dust and memories remained. Their ancient wisdom, their powerful technology, none of it mattered against the unending tide of the Devourers. Elder Cathar gazed at the blinking red light on the holographic galactic map. It marked the last star system still standing, their home world Xylos Prime, one last chance, one terrifying choice. A choice to call upon the legends, the nightmares, the species known only as humanity. On a ship named the Vagrant Star, far from Xylosian space, Kaelen's eyes fixed on the blinking notification. His ship, usually a quiet hum of life support and slow navigation, felt suddenly charged. The message was ancient in its origin, full of despair. It was a plea, loud and clear but strangely directed. It spoke of doom, of an end, and of a desperate gamble. Kaelen wore a worn gray jumpsuit, the fabric soft from countless washes. His hands, though capable, seemed to hold no special mark. Yet a faint blue glow pulsed from a device strapped to his wrist. It was an old model, not flashy, it was simply the system. The screen on his wrist blinked. Incoming message, Xylosian distress beacon, probability of survival. Negligible threat level, catastrophic. Kaelen reached out and touched the ancient message. A wave of data washed over him, filling his mind not with words, but with a feeling of overwhelming sorrow and a desperate hope. He saw images of worlds burning, of ancient cities crumbling into dust, all consumed by a cold, uncaring enemy. He saw the face of Elder Cathar, a being with multiple eyes and a skin like polished wood, etched with pain. The message ended with a single clear plea translated perfectly into his mind. Humanity, we beg for your aid, you are our last hope. We offer all we have if you can stop the great devouring. Kaelen leaned back in his pilot's chair. The Vagrant Star was small, built for exploration, not war. He was an explorer, he was a scavenger, he was a survivor, and he was something more. The system glowed brighter now. A new notification appeared. Quest initiated. The last stand of Xylos. Objective, defeat the great devouring. Reward, unspeakable power. Failure, universal obliteration. Kaelen scoffed, a dry sound in the quiet cockpit. Universal obliteration, huh? Bit dramatic system. He rubbed his chin. His life had been a series of strange events since the system had chosen him a decade ago. He did not know why, he did not know how. It just appeared, it guided him. It helped him level up. Each challenge he faced, each monster he defeated, each complex problem he solved, it made him stronger, not just physically. He gained new skills, new ways of thinking, new ways of being. He had fought rogue machines, survived alien biospheres, even outsmarted galactic pirates. But this felt different. This felt like the whole galaxy was holding its breath. He checked his ship's fuel, plenty. He checked his supplies. Enough for a long trip. He looked at the star map. Xylos Prime was far, a journey of many weeks even at maximum warp. He leaned forward, his finger hovering over the jump drive activation. All right, system, he muttered, let's see what unspeakable power looks like. The ship hummed, a deep rumble shaking his seat. The stars outside stretched into thin lines of light. The Vagrant Star jumped into hyperspace, a silver needle disappearing into the void. Days turned into weeks. Kaelen spent his time in the training room of his ship. The system had provided him with a new quest update. Training simulation activated, Devourer Combat Protocol Beta. A shimmering, almost invisible barrier formed around him. Inside, holographic projections of various Devourer forms flickered into existence. They were like multi-limbed crystalline insects, sharp and fast. He practiced his movements, his combat style. He was not a brute. He used his speed, his cunning. He dodged, he weaved, he struck. Each successful hit against a simulation registered as a small point on his system display. Skill gained, kinetic burst level 1. Skill gained, predictive dodge level 1. He felt his muscles subtly shift, becoming more efficient. His reflexes sharpened, he sweat, his body aching, but a strange satisfaction settled within him. He did not feel tired, he felt awake. He pushed harder. He pushed until the simulations overwhelmed him, until he was defeated. Then he rested. He ate nutrient paste, bland and tasteless, but it refueled him. He meditated, clearing his mind. He read through Xylosian cultural data, learning about their history, their art, their reverence for knowledge. They were not warriors. They were scholars, artists, thinkers. This made their desperation even more profound. On Xylos Prime, within the last remaining orbital citadel, Elder Cathar felt the weight of 1,000 dying stars. The air in the council chamber was thick with recycled oxygen and despair. 6 high-ranking Xylosians sat on cushioned platforms, their multi-jointed limbs drooping. Their intricate sensor arrays, usually vibrant with data, were dimmed. The beacon has been answered, Cathar stated, his voice a low thrumming sound. A human vessel designation Vagrant Star is en route. Expected arrival 8.4 cycles. A young Xylosian Lyra adjusted her holographic display. Her skin shimmered with nervous energy. Elder, are we certain? Humanity is unpredictable. Their history is filled with conflict. Their records speak of brutal efficiency. Cathar turned his many eyes towards her. And what are our options, Lyra? We have tried everything. Our shields fail. Our weapons barely scratch them. The Devourers consume everything. They adapt. They learn. We are dying. Humanity, for all their chaos, has one unique quality. They too adapt. They survive. And one among them, if the ancient texts are to be believed, possesses an ability that defies all known galactic laws. A system that grants him constant growth. Another counselor, Elder Vorlag, a staunch traditionalist, shuddered. His voice was a rasp. A myth, Cathar, a dangerous myth. We risk bringing another predator to our doorstep, only to be devoured by a different mouth. Cathar sighed. His skin, usually a vibrant green-brown, was now a dull gray. We are already devoured, Vorlag, slowly, painfully. This myth, this human, is our only throw of the dice. Lyra, despite her fears, felt a flicker of curiosity. She had studied the ancient human texts, the distorted, fragmented reports from galactic scouts. Humans were a paradox. Brutal yet capable of immense kindness, destructive yet creators of unparalleled beauty. She wanted to believe Cathar, she needed to believe. What do we know of this specific human, Kaelen? She asked. Cathar accessed his datapad. Little. His records are largely self-contained. He operates alone. He has no known affiliations with any major human factions. His system seems to isolate him yet empower him. This was not much to go on. Yet the hope, thin as starlight, began to spread through the council chamber. The Vagrant Star emerged from hyperspace with a soft thrum. Kaelen looked out at the Xylos Prime system. It was not as he expected. The vibrant blue-green of a living world was muted, stained with a purplish haze. Debris large and small floated in orbit. Remnants of ships, of stations, of dreams. He felt a cold knot in his stomach. The system hummed a low warning sound. Threat detected, Devourer scout swarm, estimated time to intercept 3 minutes. Kaelen did not hesitate. He had prepared for this. He activated his ship's defensive matrix. Small energy shields flickered into existence around the hull. He armed the ship's 2 pulse cannons, more for warding off space debris than fighting a war. System, give me everything you have on Devourer weak points, quick. The system projected data directly into his mind. Geometric patterns, resonance frequencies. It was a language of pure energy and structure. Suddenly, a swarm of dark shapes like jagged obsidian shards appeared on his sensors. They moved with frightening speed, ignoring his ship's size. They were small, no bigger than a human hand, but there were thousands of them. They were scouting. They were hungry. The Xylosians must be hidden deep within their citadel. He heard the faint clicks and pings of their energy signatures like 1,000 tiny needles scraping across metal. Kaelen grit his teeth. He fired the pulse cannons. Green energy bolts lanced out, vaporizing a few of the scouts, but they were too many. They slammed into his shields, a constant barrage of tiny, sharp impacts. The Vagrant Star vibrated violently. Warning lights flashed across his console. Shield integrity 80%, 70, 60. He couldn't defeat them with ship weapons alone. They would overwhelm him. He needed to be inside. He needed to get to the Xylosians. He saw a gap in the swarm, a small opening. He pushed the throttle forward, ignoring the system's warning about structural stress. The Vagrant Star shot through the gap, the hull groaning under the strain. Behind him, the swarm reformed, chasing. He aimed for the orbital citadel, a massive, gleaming structure that had once been white, now scarred and gray. Xylosian command, this is Kaelen, designation Vagrant Star, I'm coming in hot. Requesting immediate docking permission, any available port. A voice, clear but tinged with relief, crackled over his comms. It was Elder Cathar. Kaelen, we detect you. Docking port Gamma 7 is clear. Prepare for rapid approach. Welcome, human. Kaelen piloted the ship with expert precision, weaving between floating debris and the pursuing scout swarm. He threaded the needle, sliding the Vagrant Star into the massive bay of Gamma 7. The heavy blast doors hissed shut behind him, sealing the ship from the void. The sound of the scout swarm outside faded. He cut the engines. Silence. He took a deep breath. He was here. The docking bay was vast, dimly lit, and filled with a faint metallic smell. Xylosian engineers, their bodies encased in protective suits, moved with quiet urgency. Elder Cathar and Lyra waited at the entrance ramp of his ship. Cathar's many eyes fixed on Kaelen as the ramp lowered. Lyra, standing beside him, seemed smaller, her sensor arrays twitching with curiosity and apprehension. Kaelen stepped out. He was taller than the Xylosians, more heavily built. His eyes scanned the bay, taking in every detail. He saw the nervous glances of the Xylosian workers. He felt their fear. He felt their hope. "Kaelen, I am Elder Cathar," the Xylosian said, extending a multi-jointed hand in a gesture of welcome. Kaelen took it. The Xylosian's hand felt delicate, cool, and surprisingly strong. "It is an honor," Kaelen replied, his voice calm, steady. "This is Lyra, one of our lead scientists," Cathar introduced. Lyra nodded, her gaze keen, assessing. She seemed to study him as if he were a complex equation. "We did not expect you to arrive alone," Lyra stated, her voice a low hum. Kaelen shrugged. "My ship is small, my intentions are not. The system works best with a minimal footprint, fewer variables." Cathar led them away from the ship towards a smaller, private chamber. The corridors of the citadel were ancient, carved from what looked like living rock. Murals depicting Xylosian history and astronomical charts adorned the walls. But dust lay thick in the corners, and the silence was heavy, broken only by the hum of distant machinery. "The Devourers," Cathar began, his voice dropping, "they are not merely invaders. They are a force of consumption. They do not seek conquest. They seek assimilation. They break down all matter, all energy, all knowledge, and they add it to themselves. They grow, they evolve with every world they consume." They entered the chamber. It was Spartan, with a large holographic projector in the center. Cathar activated it. A swirling vortex of dark energy appeared. "This is what we call the Devourer Nexus," he explained. "It is their point of origin, or at least their deepest penetration into our reality. It appeared in the outer reaches of our system centuries ago. We tried to study it. We tried to contain it. We failed. It is endlessly expanding. From it, the Devourers emerge." Lyra stepped forward. "They have no discernible will, no central command structure. Each Devourer unit operates as part of a vast, interconnected network. They are like a hyper-efficient organism, designed only to grow and consume." Kaelen felt the system stir on his wrist. New information acquired. Devourer threat profile updated. He saw a network diagram in his mind's eye, complex and terrifying. Each point on the network represented a potential weakness or a strength. "Show me what you've fought," Kaelen said. Cathar projected images of various Devourer forms. The basic scout, which Kaelen had just encountered. Larger, tougher harvesters that converted planetary matter into energy. And terrifying Nexus Guardians, massive, fortress-like beings that seemed to be pure energy. "Our greatest weapons, our most powerful energy beams, barely leave a mark," Lyra said, her voice filled with despair. "They adapt. Their crystalline shells become denser. Their energy shields reform instantly." Kaelen studied the images. He saw the crystalline structure. He saw the energy signatures. He saw the way they moved, the way they absorbed. "They're like a self-improving firewall," he mused aloud. "The more you hit them, the stronger they get in that area, so you need to hit them where they aren't looking, or hit them with something they can't adapt to." Cathar and Lyra exchanged a look. This was a new way of thinking. Their strategies had focused on overwhelming force. "My system," Kaelen continued, tapping his wrist, "allows me to adapt, to grow, to find new ways. I don't just get stronger, I get different. Show me where they are now. Where is their main push?" Cathar activated a new holographic map. A pulsing red line showed the Devourer's current advance. It was heading directly for the last Xylosian population center, deep within the planet's core. "Our last 500,000 Xylosians are housed in the deep archive," Cathar explained. "It is our last hope for survival. The Devourers will reach it in 3 days. 3 days, that was the deadline." Kaelen felt the weight of it. "All right," he said, a new resolve in his voice. "First, I need to see them up close, not simulations, real ones. Send me to the front line." Lyra recoiled slightly. "Kaelen, that is too dangerous. Our best warriors, our automated defenses have fallen there." Kaelen shook his head. "I can't fight what I don't understand. I need to observe their patterns, their energy signature, their adaptation rate. The system needs data." Cathar looked at Lyra, then back at Kaelen. "Very well, we will prepare a transport. Lyra will accompany you. She can provide real-time tactical data." Lyra's eyes widened. She had not expected to be on the front lines. But a strange excitement mixed with deep fear began to churn within her. The transport shuttle was a small, armored vessel, sleek and designed for speed. Kaelen sat across from Lyra. She was wearing a specialized sensor suit, her many eyes darting across the readouts. The air in the shuttle was cool, sterile. Kaelen felt a faint tremor through the floor as the shuttle detached from the Citadel. The primary breach point is Sector Gamma 9, Lyra stated, her voice steady despite the tension. Our defense grids there are mostly depleted. We expect heavy resistance. Kaelen nodded. He closed his eyes, focusing. The system hummed, providing him with a quest update, Devourer Field Study. Objective, observe Devourer behavior and adaptation. Reward new skill unlocks system upgrade points. This was his process. He didn't just fight, he learned. He integrated. He became more. The shuttle dove through the purplish haze of Xylos Prime's ruined atmosphere. Below them, the surface was a desolate landscape of shattered cities and glowing fissures. The ground seemed to pulse with an eerie, dark light. That is the Devourer corruption, Lyra explained, her voice tinged with sadness. They convert matter into a new form, a raw material for their expansion. Kaelen felt a prickle on his skin. This wasn't just destruction, it was an unmaking. The shuttle landed with a soft thud near a ruined defensive bunker. The air outside was cold and smelled of ozone and something burnt, like metal and stone. Kaelen stepped out, his combat suit forming around him, a sleek layer of dark, adaptive material. Lyra, her sensor suit humming faintly, followed him. She clutched a data pad to her chest. A low, guttural shriek echoed in the distance. The ground vibrated. Harvesters, Lyra whispered, her voice tight. Kaelen moved quickly, fluidly finding cover behind a collapsed wall. He peered over the edge. Large, multi-limbed devourers, each the size of a small vehicle, moved through the ruins. Their crystalline bodies glowed with an internal purple light. They were slowly, methodically breaking down the remnants of buildings, turning them into swirling motes of dark energy. Their shells are incredibly tough, Lyra said, her voice strained. We hit them with planetary cannons and they barely flinched. The energy dispersed, absorbed. Kaelen watched, his eyes narrowed. He saw the energy flow within their bodies. He saw how the energy would coalesce at points of impact, strengthening the armor. They're like living capacitors, he murmured. They absorb kinetic and energy impacts, then redistribute it, makes them stronger. He saw a harvester approach a particularly strong alloy beam. It extended a long, crystalline arm which began to pulse with a dark light. The beam twisted, groaned, and then dissolved into dust. The Devourer seemed to swell slightly, its internal light intensifying. They use the absorbed energy to grow, to form new parts to replicate, Lyra explained, her multi-eyes fixed on the creature. Kaelen saw an opening. A brief moment when the harvester was fully focused on absorbing, its energy distribution temporarily concentrated. Lyra, how quickly can your data systems predict their absorption points? He asked. Lyra blinked. It depends on their activity. High absorption means predictable energy flow but also peak defenses. I need the weak point, Kaelen stated. The one they're least expecting. He knew what he had to do. He activated a new skill from the system. Skill, Precision Strike Level 1. His hand glowed faintly. He moved. Not with brute force, but with a sudden, impossible burst of speed. He was a blur of motion. He was on the harvester before it could react. He struck not at its armored shell, but at a tiny, almost invisible joint in its leg, a place where the crystalline plates met in a complex, almost decorative pattern. It was a point of weakness. A single tiny structural flaw he had observed in its movement, where the energy flow was briefly disrupted as it moved its limb. His hand, charged with system energy, pulsed as it connected. Not a punch, but a precise, focused impact. A hairline crack appeared on the crystalline joint. The harvester shuddered, a high-pitched whine emanating from its core. Its purple light flickered, it stopped absorbing, it stumbled. Lyra gasped. She had seen their strongest weapons bounce off these creatures. Kaelen moved again, striking another harvester. The same precise, focused strike. Another hairline crack. The creatures began to slow. They didn't fall, but they were wounded. The system chimed. Devourer harvester weak point identified, structural integrity compromised. System, Kaelen thought, can I take them out with this? Affirmative, the system replied. Repeated precision strikes will cause structural cascade failure. However, they will adapt to this attack pattern within moments. Kaelen knew he had to be fast. He was a whirlwind of precision, striking key points on the harvesters. Each creature shrieked, their movements becoming erratic. Then their forms began to distort, their crystalline shells fracturing from within. With a final, agonizing sound, they imploded, turning into wisps of dark energy that dissipated into the atmosphere. Kaelen stood amidst the dissipating energy, breathing heavily. His combat suit shimmered. He looked at Lyra. Her multi-eyes were wide, filled with disbelief and awe. You broke them, she whispered. No, I found the crack, Kaelen corrected. They adapt fast. Next time they'll shield those points or alter their structure. We need something more, something they can't predict. The system chimed again. Quest objective complete. Devourer field study. Rewards. New skill unlock. Adaptive combat protocol. System upgrade point received. New skill tree available. Energy manipulation. This was what he needed. New paths, new ways to grow. They returned to the Citadel. The news of Kaelen's success spread like wildfire. The Xylosian counselors who had been skeptical now looked at Kaelen with a mix of wonder and apprehension. Elder Vorlag, who had been the most vocal opponent of trusting humans, watched Kaelen with narrowed eyes. Cathar, however, seemed to radiate a quiet satisfaction. Your demonstration was profound, Kaelen, Cathar stated. It gives us hope, but time is against us. The Devourer advance is relentless. Lyra, still buzzing from the experience, projected a new map. The main Devourer force is approaching the final defense line around the Deep Archive. Their Nexus Guardians are with them. These are the toughest. They absorb everything. Kaelen nodded. I need to prepare. The system gave me a new path. Energy manipulation. I need to understand it. I need to level it up. He retreated to a special training chamber the Xylosians had provided. It was a large, empty room with reinforced walls. He sat in the center, closing his eyes. He focused on the energy manipulation skill tree. It wasn't about simply shooting energy. It was about controlling the raw forces, bending them, disrupting them. He started with the basics. Skill activated. Energy sense level 1. He felt it, the subtle currents of energy that permeated everything. The hum of the Citadel's power grid, the latent energy in the walls, the biological energy of his own body. He practiced drawing it, shaping it. It was like learning a new sense. Slowly, a faint, almost invisible shimmer appeared around his hands. He pushed it, trying to make it stronger. It was slow. It was frustrating. He felt like a child learning to walk. Days passed, blurring into a single, intense focus. Kaelen ate, slept, and trained. He pushed his mind and body. The Xylosians, particularly Lyra, watched him with fascination. She brought him data, explained the complex energy signatures of the Devourers. She had never seen such dedication, such relentless pursuit of a goal. She saw the pain in his eyes sometimes when he pushed too hard, but he never stopped. His face, usually calm, was now often furrowed in concentration. One day, Lyra walked into the training room. Kaelen was standing, his hands glowing with a soft, pulsing light. The air around him shimmered. He moved his hands and the light followed, forming intricate patterns. Kaelen, she said softly. He opened his eyes, the glow faded. I'm getting closer, he said, his voice a little hoarse. I think I understand how to disrupt their energy absorption. He explained his theory. If he could create an energy field that perfectly mirrored the Devourer's absorption frequency, but slightly out of phase, it might cause a destructive resonance. Like a tuning fork shattering glass, Lyra's multi-eyes widened. That's genius, Kaelen. We have focused on brute force. You are thinking of elegant destruction. It's how the system works, Kaelen replied. It finds the path of least resistance, the most efficient way to overcome a problem. Humans are good at that. We find loopholes, we exploit weaknesses. He activated another skill. Skill gained. Resonance pulse level 1. A small, focused pulse of energy shot from his hand, striking a reinforced wall. There was no explosion, no visible damage. But Lyra's sensors immediately registered a microfracture within the wall's material, a disruption at a molecular level. It was subtle, it was terrifyingly effective. The final day arrived. The Devourer advance was at the gates of the Deep Archive. The last Xylosian defense turrets, battered and scarred, fired their last desperate shots. The Citadel trembled. Elder Cathar stood with Kaelen and Lyra on the command deck, overlooking a holographic projection of the battle. The Nexus Guardians, massive and impervious, were smashing through the defense lines, their forms glowing with dark energy. They are too many, Kaelen, Vorlag's voice crackled over the comms. We must prepare for evacuation. Kaelen shook his head. No, we fight. He looked at Lyra. Are you ready? Lyra took a deep breath. As I'll ever be. My sensors are calibrated to your new energy signature. I will provide targeting data. Kaelen turned to Cathar. Elder, prepare your strongest shield generators. I'm going to need them for what comes next. Kaelen descended into the battle zone. He was alone, a single human figure against a tide of cosmic horrors. The air was thick with the scent of ozone and dust. The ground rumbled under the tread of the Nexus Guardians. They were truly immense, towering structures of dark crystal, each one pulsating with an almost intelligent malevolence. Their internal light was a deep, chilling purple. Kaelen felt the sheer weight of their energy absorption, a field of nullification that swallowed all incoming attacks. He activated his combat suit's full sensory array. He heard the grinding of their limbs, the low thrum of their cores. He saw the faint distortions in the air around them as they pulled in energy. He felt the cold radiation they emitted. He chose his first target, the largest Nexus Guardian, one that was already battering the Deep Archive's final shield. Kaelen moved not directly at it but around it, a shadow in the ruins. He activated Adaptive Combat Protocol. His movements became unpredictable, fluid, almost impossible to follow. He was not just dodging. He was flowing around their attacks, finding the gaps in their perception. "Lyra, give me the frequency, the perfect phase inversion." Lyra's voice, surprisingly steady, responded in his ear. "Calculating. Current absorption frequency is 7.483. Your resonance pulse needs to be 7.483, inverted phase, with a 10% amplitude overload." Kaelen raised his hand, energy gathered, swirling. It was not a destructive force but a pure, focused counter-frequency. He unleashed the resonance pulse. It was a silent wave, invisible to the naked eye. It struck the Nexus Guardian. Nothing happened at first. Then a tiny ripple appeared on its crystalline surface. Like water disturbed by an unseen pebble, the Guardian stopped. Its internal light flickered wildly. It seemed confused. Then it began to groan, a deep, grinding sound that shook the very ground. Cracks spiderwebbed across its colossal form. The Devourer's energy absorption field warped, then collapsed. Its ability to absorb energy was gone. The Xylosian defense turrets, which had been useless moments before, opened fire. Their energy blasts, once absorbed without a trace, now slammed into the Guardian, causing huge chunks of crystal to explode outwards. The Guardian shrieked, a sound of agony and confusion. It lumbered, collapsing into a heap of shattered crystals and dissipating dark energy. Kaelen felt a surge of energy. System, Nexus Guardian defeated. Skill gained. Energy overload level 1. System upgrade point received. This was it. This was the breakthrough, but he knew it wouldn't last. The Devourers would adapt. They always did. He moved to the next Guardian. This time, as he gathered his energy, he felt a ripple in the air. The Guardian was changing. Its surface hardened, its energy signature shifting rapidly. Lyra's voice was urgent. "Kaelen, they're adapting. Their frequency is fluctuating too fast for me to lock on." Kaelen frowned. This was the challenge. This was where humanity excelled. Not just brute force, not just clever tricks, but pure, raw adaptation. He couldn't rely on Lyra's perfect calculations anymore. He had to do it himself. He closed his eyes for a split second, feeling the Devourer's energy. He opened his eyes. He didn't just sense it. He felt it with every fiber of his being. He adjusted his own energy, not calculating but feeling, intuiting the precise counter-frequency. It was like playing a musical instrument he had never seen before, but knowing the melody instinctively. He unleashed the resonance pulse again. This time it hit with a resounding clap of displaced air. The Guardian shuddered, its new adaptive shell cracking. Kaelen continued, moving from Guardian to Guardian. He used Adaptive Combat Protocol to stay ahead of their blows, to avoid their counterattacks. He used Resonance Pulse to shatter their defenses. He used Energy Overload to deliver focused blasts of pure, destructive energy into their cores once their shields were down. It was a dance of death, precise and brutal. Each time he shattered a Guardian, he felt himself change, grow. His senses became sharper, his control over energy more absolute. He was pushing past what was possible, leveling up in real time in the middle of a war zone. Lyra, watching from the command center, could barely breathe. She had seen him destroy 4 Nexus Guardians. The Xylosian counselors were silent, their multi-eyes fixed on the hologram. Elder Vorlag's grim expression had slowly melted into one of stunned disbelief. Kaelen was a whirlwind. He wasn't just fighting, he was learning, evolving. He was becoming the very thing the Devourers were, but with a different purpose. "He's moving too fast," Lyra murmured. "Their adaptation algorithms can't keep up with his own growth. He's learning faster than they can react." But the Devourers had another trick. A massive, swirling vortex of dark energy began to form behind the main Devourer force. It was the Devourer Nexus itself, the point of their origin, moving. It was pulling energy from the surrounding ruined landscape, growing larger, more ominous. "Kaelen," Lyra's voice was desperate. "The Nexus is activating, it's calling in reinforcements. A full Devourer assault force from the outer systems." Kaelen saw it, the swirling void, the endless stream of Devourers pouring from it. This wasn't just a battle, this was the true source. This was the heart of the problem. System, Kaelen thought, what's the core weakness of the Nexus? The system's reply was grim. Nexus is a dimensional anchor. Disrupting it would require a massive, sustained energy fluctuation. Unfeasible with current power levels. Unfeasible is not impossible, Kaelen muttered. He pushed himself, he needed more power, he needed a new skill, he had to risk it all. He ran towards the Nexus, ignoring the smaller Devourers that swarmed around him. He felt their weak points, but he didn't stop. He needed to reach the core, the heart of the Devourers' invasion. He reached the edge of the swirling vortex. The air here was thick, buzzing with dark energy. It felt like standing at the edge of a black hole. He felt the pull, the temptation to be absorbed, to become part of the collective, but he resisted. This was the ultimate test. He focused all his energy, every skill he had learned, every level he had gained, every moment of pain and effort. He channeled it all. The system began to flash wildly on his wrist. Warning. Extreme energy output, system integrity at risk. Kaelen ignored it. He pushed further. He activated a new skill, one that had just unlocked. Skill activated, Worldbreaker Pulse Level 1. His entire body glowed with a blinding white light. The light pushed back the darkness, pushed back the swirling vortex. He felt like his very atoms were vibrating, threatening to tear apart. He gritted his teeth, holding the immense power. He unleashed the Worldbreaker Pulse. It wasn't a beam. It was a wave of pure, unfocused, chaotic energy, a raw force of disruption. It slammed into the Devourer Nexus. The black vortex shrieked. It was a sound that was not sound, but a feeling of existential agony that reverberated through Kaelen's very soul. The Nexus, which had been a symbol of unyielding consumption, began to distort. The edges shimmered, then fragmented. Dark energy bled out, dissolving into the atmosphere. The Devourers that were emerging from it froze, their crystalline forms turning translucent, then evaporating into nothingness. Kaelen fell to his knees, gasping, the light fading from his body. His combat suit shimmered, then dissolved into motes of light. He was shaking, utterly drained. The system on his wrist was dark, silent. For the first time since he had encountered it, the system was unresponsive. Had he broken it? Had he gone too far? Lyra rushed to him, her multi-eyes wide with concern. Xylosian medics in their protective suits appeared, their movements quick and efficient. They helped Kaelen to his feet. He felt strangely light, empty. The Devourer Nexus was gone. The remaining Devourer forces, disconnected from their source, began to falter. They became disorganized, aimless. The Xylosian defense turrets, still functional, picked them off one by one. The tide had turned. The Xylosians had won, but Kaelen, the human who had done the impossible, was silent. His system was still dark. Lyra checked him over. "Are you injured, Kaelen?" she asked, her voice filled with worry. Kaelen shook his head slowly. "No. Just empty." He felt the weight of his actions, the immense cost of that last ability. He was brought back to the command center. Elder Cathar met him, his posture showing immense relief and gratitude. "Kaelen, you have saved us. You have saved Xylos. We owe you a debt beyond words." The other counselors, even Vorlag, bowed their heads in respect. Kaelen looked at them, but his gaze was distant. He touched his wrist. The system remained dark. "The Nexus is gone," he said, his voice hoarse. "But what about the system?" Lyra, who had been studying her own readings, frowned. "The Nexus was a dimensional anchor. When you disrupted it, you created a massive, localized reality distortion. Your system, it seems to have absorbed the residual energy. It's not broken, Kaelen, it's dormant, like it's processing something enormous." Days turned into weeks again. The Xylosians were busy. They cleaned up the ruins, helped the survivors from the deep archive, and began to rebuild. Kaelen remained in the Citadel. He ate, he rested, he sometimes trained, but without the system, it felt different. He felt less capable. He felt human. He found himself spending more time with Lyra. She was fascinated by his experiences, by the concept of leveling up, by the sheer adaptability of humanity. She wanted to understand the system, to study it. Kaelen, for his part, found comfort in her presence, in her quiet curiosity. He taught her simple human phrases. She taught him about Xylosian art and philosophy. One day, Lyra brought him a small, intricate device. It was a Xylosian data conduit, beautifully crafted. "Kaelen," she said, "I have been studying the energy signatures from your last attack, the Worldbreaker Pulse. It wasn't just energy, it was potential. You didn't just destroy the Nexus. You temporarily untangled the fabric of reality itself. Your system absorbed that chaos, that's why it went dormant." Kaelen looked at her, intrigued. "What does that mean?" Lyra's multi-eyes shimmered. "It means your system is not just about gaining power from challenges. It seems to be capable of processing fundamental reality. It absorbed the raw, untamed essence of dimensional instability. It is transforming. Suddenly his wristband pulsed. A faint blue light, then brighter. The system was back online. Kaelen gasped. On the screen, new information appeared. System status awakened, new core functionality. Reality weave activated. New skill tree, Genesis. Below that, another message, quest update, a new galaxy. Objective, explore and understand the impact of reality weave on universal mechanics. Reward, absolute understanding. Failure, unforeseen consequences. Kaelen stared at the words. Reality weave, he whispered. Lyra leaned in, her sensor arrays going wild. Its energy signature, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. It's not just powerful, it's fundamental. It's like it can touch the very essence of existence. Kaelen felt it, a new sense. He didn't just see the world. He felt its structure, its underlying code. He felt the subtle hum of the Xylosian citadel not as a building, but as a collection of forces, of energies. He felt the life force of Lyra, a complex, beautiful tapestry of biology and thought. This was beyond leveling up. This was beyond skills. This was different. This was profound. He was no longer just a strong human. He was a being that could touch the very fabric of reality, guided by a mysterious system that now seemingly drew its power from the cosmos itself. Elder Cathar walked in. He had sensed the energy surge. He looked at Kaelen, then at Lyra, his many eyes filled with a mixture of awe and apprehension. "What has happened, Kaelen?" he asked, his voice hushed. Kaelen looked at the Elder. He looked at Lyra. He looked out the window at the slowly healing Xylosian world. He knew his purpose had shifted. He had saved them from the Devourers. But now he had a new role. He was a bridge. He was an explorer of the fundamental. He was still Kaelen, the human from the Vagrant Star, but he was also something more, something truly new. "Elder," Kaelen said, his voice calm, filled with a new, quiet power, "the Devourers were a problem, a threat. But the universe is vast, and I believe the system has just shown me the way to understand it and perhaps to face the next one. Humanity, we don't just survive, we evolve. And sometimes we bring the whole galaxy with us." Lyra smiled, a rare, beautiful expression on a Xylosian face. Elder Cathar nodded slowly, a sense of relief and a new, profound respect settling over him. The fate of the Xylosians, once hanging by a thread, was now woven into a grander tapestry, one guided by a human and his evolving system. The universe, vast and dangerous, had just found a new, unpredictable champion. A human champion, and the journey had just truly begun.